This video this video is sponsored by Motivation, an essential product for every content creator.
Hey Lovelies, it's me Purple, and I think you've waited this video. I think you already read the title, and yes, you're correct. This is a tutorial video. Let's go! So, in this tutorial, I'll be exploring, deep diving, and explain how everything in After Effects works. Also, this tutorial is beginner friendly, and I'm only going to discuss basic things. Duh. So that means I'm not going to use third-party plugins such as Sapphire, BBC, Universe, you call it. And I'm only going to use the built-in plugins instead because I'm that nice and generous.
Oh, really?
So with that out of the way, let's just dive into it. Okay. Yes, hello. Welcome to After Effects. So I am currently using the After Effects 2022 version of it, but any version of After Effects will do for this tutorial. So let's begin. So first thing we should do is to make a composition by clicking New Composition. So once you're in here, you would see a pop-up window of the composition settings. So for starters, I'll name the composition as Tutorial. I spelled tutorial wrong, forgive me. And next is the ratio size. So for the ratio size, I will just give you guys a cheat code on the screen right now so that you won't suffer, of course. And for the frame rate, I suggest use 30 frames per second since that's the usual frame rate that every editor uses. But if you want a smoother video, just use 60 frames per second, but with a price of a frying dying motherboard that is not cooking. Unless if your computer specs can handle 60 frames per second, which we do not want that. So for poopy babies like you, just use 30 frames per second. And for the duration... Oh, I did not need to click that. For the duration, any duration will do. Just make the video longer, just make the video shorter. But the only thing I already want to mess around is just random numbers on the duration, unless if I know how long the audio would be. So for now, I'll just put it as 10 seconds. So that's your composition. But if you want to go back to the composition settings, go to Composition and Composition Settings, and you will mess around with the settings again. So on with the whole interface of it, which is the windows or the cluttery. So on the bottom below, this is your timeline. The one I'm dragging is called the time indicator, and I'll assume that your accent color of After Effects is color blue. For me, personally, it's just a stylistic choice, but I just changed the color of After Effects to purple because haha, lovely purple. And right here, this is your project. This is where all your media, your assets, everything that you use in this video or you're working on in After Effects, this is where it all go. And for here, I only suggest messing around with effects and presets. Why? Because that's the only thing you're gonna use when it comes to editing in After Effects. Trust me on this. So let's open effects and presets. So this is your library of effects. But for this tutorial, I will only just use the basic effects of After Effects. So once you make the composition thing and everything I tackled before, let's try out the transitions. So for starters, I will be using 2 pictures of Taylor Swift's Reputation era because, well, I'm edgy, okay?
Y'all, oh, stop acting like you're all nice. You are so fake.
So I'll be teaching you guys with the use of Taylor Swift's images of basic transform transitions, which are the position, rotation, and scale. So for starters, I'll zoom Taylor Swift in this first picture for a second, and there, I'll right-click the image and recompose it just to crop and make another composition of it. Why do you do that? Because whenever I make edits on Instagram, I always pre-compose them so that initially it would crop the whole video, and also whenever I add effects there like tracing the video and adding like overlays at the background, it's beneficial honestly. It makes your video or your asset media just flow at the same time, if you get what I mean. So for now, I'll just name the first pre-comp as 1 and move all attributes and adjust composition. Check that. So let's click OK. And initially you have this result, but if you want to add more changes or add something, double click the composition here and it will make a tab of that composition and also a new preview window in here. So, and essentially what you could do with this one is you could change something on that pre-comp that you made, and it would generally make that new change on the main source or the main composition that you're working on. So let's say let's move or add a text. There you go. So when you made that example of a change on the first composition, let's head back to the main tutorial comp. See what I did there? It changes also in here. That's why it's efficient and also useful. So let's start off with the first transition, which is the position transition, specifically the slide transition. So we're gonna mess around with the position of it. So first, I'll be adding an effect in the effects and presets called motion tile. What it essentially does is the equivalent of, if I'm correct, Tyler or tile, CC tile on Alight Motion. I don't know the name of it, but I'll just show the effect. So essentially let's search motion tile and drag it on your first and second clip. So for this one, I put the largest value I could do, but not too much so that it wouldn't crash. So I'll put my setting as 350 by 350, and optionally I would turn on mirror edges just to have that mirror edge effect, but if you don't want it, just click it off. But personally, I would just use mirror edges, and same goes to here. Mirror edges, 350 by 350, and mirror edges, and it will also give it the same look. Let's do that. There you go. So first, I'll click P on my keyboard just to open the position and click on this time stopwatch. And what this essentially does is it makes a keyframe. So this is your keyframe, this diamond thing. And let's make a slide going from this direction. Yes, I don't know my left and right for this one, okay? And for this one, open up the position and click the time stopwatch and drag this all the way or where you want to end with the transition. And let's go for the opposite direction. Since I move it from there, I'll move this one kinda like here. So let's play it back.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
OMG, purple, why does it look ugly and so scuffed? Because you forgot to add motion blur and also forgot to graph. Why is there an airplane just driving by? What the hell? So anyway, let's highlight the keyframes and click F9 on our keyboard just to make it an easy ease. Firstly, let's go to the first composition with our keyframes and go to the graph editor. So when you highlight the keyframes on the first one, it will generally make this graph. So the logic behind here, because I've seen a lot of first timers that doesn't know how to use with one. So if you want to copy with this graph, go to here and click on speed graph. But if you want to go, you know, complex or deep dive more into the usual graph you wanted, go to value graph. But since position doesn't want you to use value graph, let's just use the speed graph instead. So the logic behind here is that the top arc of it will be the fastest one. So what essentially does, this is your lowest point, which is the slow one, and it will gradually go up and faster and go slower at the end. So we want that to make it legit fast, the transition like fast. So I'll drag or highlight this one and move the knobs at the end, and it would generally make this one like arc, whatever this one called. I suck at math. And the first knob being all the way right about there. We don't want it to make it to impact unless the audio that you're using is a huge, boom. And let's do the same thing with the second one, but this time let's go to the opposite direction, being that the first knob will be in there, and also making it like this. And this is what it looks like when you're making your graph, but essentially it will have great results. So, and click the check mark here, the motion blur. It will essentially automatically give you the motion blur that you wanted. And final result, this is what it looks like. So the next thing we will use is the rotation value. For this, we're gonna use the rotation value of this one. So click R on your keyboard just to open the rotation graph or the rotation tab. Click time watch, and you know the drill, keyframes. And for my setting here, I always go for 125. And at the end, I always put this on the very end of the composition because, yes sirree. So you know the drill with this one. I just copy and paste the rotation of this one. Just you copy and paste the graph, of course. And let's do the same thing with the second composition. Oh, I did not mean to do that. So we're gonna use the rotation one, but this time let's make it a negative value. Since we put a 125 there, we are gonna put negative 125. Negative 125 right there. And highlight the keyframes and click F9. And the graph editor, you know the drill. Graph this and that. For a smoother effect, I suggest move this at the end or nudge it all the way back here, just one frame. But here's the result of the rotation. And the last thing will be the scale transition, specifically the zoom in, zoom out. Either the two, but I'll just use a zoom in for now. So for starters, let's click S on our keyboard and it will pop up the scale. So let's click on this time watch and go to the end of your composition. For starters, I'll use a large value depending on how fast I want to go. But for this one, I'll just use 250 or 350, I guess. Oh, too much. Let's just put 250. It's just zooming on the lips. And graph F9. I forgot to F9. F9 graph. Bam. And graph it like this. And as again on the keyboard, time watch. Move that on where you want to end specifically, and there you go. Specifically, I want to put this on a lower graph just to zoom it out. So lower than 100 will be essentially like zooming out. Greater the value or greater than 100 will zoom it in. So for this one, for the second composition, of course, we're gonna zoom it out by lowering our values. Just like 45, I guess. And graph it. And just here's the result. So the next segment for this tutorial is the shakes and warps. So for the shakes and warps, this is useful primarily if you want more flowy, more impact with your edits, basically. And in regards on any type of video editing you want, this is useful if it's necessary. So for starters, I already put the motion tile effect here just so not be hassle. And of course, it's Taylor Swift on the Reputation era because I am edgy.
What's with that bitch? Don't call me that.
So first, I'll discuss the shakes, basically the vertical shake for once. So I'll just click P on my keyboard. Generally, you could go for an up and down motion shake or the left and right motion shake. So for now, I'll do the vertical shake or the up and down motion. So let's click the timestamp here and we'll proceed with this specific shake we'll be doing. But the only rule when it comes to making a shake is to your keyframes and your values that you want and also making it smoother with no need of the graph. So let's first make a keyframe on the first frame and click on 2 frames. And I'll go for what essentially this low of a value or that value. Just copy. And let's go for a 5 frame right here and just go up. Oh, and pro tip, if you don't want to make it hassle with this composition moving, just hold shift and it would just make your shifting like up and down on a straight line. So let's go more further. It's just basically like a close and also make it further away from each other with the keyframes. That's the only guideline I'm following right now. And lastly, here, I guess. And if you want to end with the shake here, which is right about kind of here, right click the position and click on reset and highlight the keyframes and click F9 on your keyboard. And this is what it looks like. But if you want to make it shorter, just move around with your keyframes a bit closer to them, but not too close. Just to follow like increase or like a closer to farther rule of thumb. So I'll just see. OMG, there's another plane just driving by. What's going on? So since we got this effect right now with the shake, let's make it more smigsy, smigsier. So let's add the warps and also the rotation, I guess, with the basic transform. So first, I'll just do the rotation for once. Let's click Shift and R so that if you click R only, it would just remove the position. And yeah, so let's Shift R on the keyboard just to add more tabs on your basic transform. So click the rotation time watch, this one, and let's move it in between with the rotation, slightly 1 frame apart. So I'll just put any value that's like a small value that doesn't impact too much. So I'll just click on maybe 6 and go here. 1 frame apart rule. And let's go on 4. Let's go for like 2. Basically, it's just shifting towards your value on a negative and a positive and a negative pattern. And 0. Highlight F9 of your keyboard, and let's see what it looks like with the rotation. So next is let's add the warps. So for the warps, I'll just search in here for warp, specifically this warp, and go into the effects, just either here, but there you go. Oh, and yeah, let's click on the squeeze, and essentially what it look like. So for this one, click on the time watch beside on bend, and what it will do is let's press U just to show all of the keyframes you've made, and let's make the keyframe. I specifically also go for the pattern of positive negative or negative positive value pattern, but for this one let's go for let's go for negative value this time. There you go. Let's go for negative 45 and go in between the position, and let's go for 25. This is what it looks like with the warps and the rotation. So there you go. So next thing we're gonna do is the turbulence displace effect. But for this one, we're gonna use a layer we called adjustment layer. So let's go to layer, new, and adjustment layer, or Ctrl-Alt-Y if you want to go faster. So let's search up turbulent displace. And I know it looks disgusting. Look at Taylor's cheek. So just follow my setting, I guess. So let's just use amount and size and go to the very end, I guess, of your layer or very end of your composition. Highly suggestive. So let's make it 400 and this one being at 0. Actually, let's make it 120 on the first go and 75 or 76. I just typed that wrong. And since we got this abomination, but don't worry. So if you play it, yeah, it sounds smoother. And last but not least is the wave warp effect that I always use with my edits. Just search on wave warp, drag it to your adjustment layer, and just copy my setting. But for this one, you could just either go for a 90-degree angle or a 0-degree angle. But for my taste at least, I just go for the 90 for like the 0. And for pinning, click all edges just to hide the black ripples on the sides. And for wave type, it's either sine, square, triangle. You could mess around with the settings, but since we're gonna use it for like a warpy style, just go for smooth noise or sine. And copy my setting in wave height and width. So this is gonna be my settings, but you could again mess around with your settings or your values. So for wave height, we're gonna put it on 150, and let's go somewhere we would end it. So let's just say in here, and click this thing and 0. And let's press U on our keyboard. Let's go right down here, and F9, and just make the graph. So this is what it looks like on the wave warp effect. Yeah, I'm done with the tutorial video. Woo! If you think this is the end of the tutorial, well it ain't, because I will make more of these types of videos if it blows up. It shows how much you are dedicated into editing in After Effects as a beginner. But I will give you an appreciation gift for tuning into the end of this video. As you read also in the title, I am giving away a free project file for you located in my payhip. This shows all the effects and transitions. I showcase even my graphs and settings. This project file is only for educational purposes, and I do not support you stealing or owning this project file. This is like Taylor Swift, I own my shit, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. If you do like it, give this video a thumbs up and comment down below what other After Effects related tutorials am I going to discuss next. Till then, see you, lovelies, and Purple out.